Hey everyone, welcome back to another recap podcast from SNXweave, where we give quick weekly recaps of news and important updates from the previous week from the Spartan Council and core contributors, as well as discuss what the Grants Council and ambassadors are up to, so let's get started. First up, for our work in progress update, 900,000 of the 1 million USDC LP cap has been filled, and the CCs are now preparing the rewards distributor mechanism for STP14's USDC LP incentives. No major issues have been reported from integrators, so it may be time to start directing traders towards base. Quenta is planning to scale up the invite-only testing phase before opening up V3 on base as the default experience for all Quenta users. The TLDR here is basically that the limited use at this point is a user onboarding issue rather than a limitation of what is currently deployed, since there's plenty of OI room for traders that is not being used. As for markets, Perps V3 OI caps are now at $1 million, and trades are being executed by two integrators. Once Perps V3.1 and V3.2 are shipped, OI caps can be lifted considerably. Next up, the Spartan Council briefly reviewed the roadmap again, which we discussed in last week's recap. There is further discussion on deploying to future chains and the creation of an SNX app chain. From an offline conversation with Cav, Kane explains some of the prerequisites for deploying to another chain. The whole point behind the Andromeda release was to conduct experiments that would inform potential future deployments. The first is whether there is any interest in LPing USDC, and the second is the trading demand for synthetics contracts backed by that USDC collateral. Kane said the big open question for him is what percentage of active traders are from outside the synthetics community. These are the traders who are less likely to be concerned with the chain that synthetics is deployed on and the collateral backing the system, and more concerned with the quality of the product. Once the experiments validate whether there is demand for trading, the Spartan Council and core contributors can begin to evaluate what a post-SNX collateral synthetics should look like. App chain development is also contingent on Andromeda experiment data. As far as future experiments, there have been several suggestions to deploy to other chains such as Arbitrum, and possibly experiment with more risky collateral and margin types. Adam cautioned that even in an isolated deployment environment, the synthetics brand would be tied to all of these deployments, and any issues may be optically damaging for the protocol even if LP risk was contained. In other discussion, Duck brought up the fact that as V3 scales on base, there will be less demand for SUSD on V2, which may impact the peg. There's a big SUSD arbitrage opportunity from L1 to Optimism that's not being efficiently closed. Kane said he was able to run the cycle a couple of times and estimates the APY was near 40%. The big problem, however, is that it's not an easy process, and automating it would require a level of sophistication that most SUSD holders don't have. The core contributors are developing an interface to help with this, and there may need to be additional incentives from the Treasury Council to make it worthwhile for smaller SUSD holders. There was also a SIP presentation last week, SIP 2053, to list Jupiter on Perps V2. This token launched on February 1st, so Caleb explained that there was no active trading data at the time of the presentation to support the listing, but he expects it to have the same demand as Bonk. This would not go live until the markets are active on other centralized exchanges, and this asset will also be added to the risk control module in the SCCP configuration. In Grants Council updates, the team had a meeting last week where they discussed what the future of the Grants Council should look like. They also went over some of their ongoing initiatives, including the SUSD bridge, BurnBot, and Watcher page. The Grants Council is close to confirming that the native SUSD bridge works on the staking website, and the BurnBot has been updated to include all-time SNX burns. You can see weekly and all-time burns in Discord now. The Watcher page will also soon include totals for open positions, filtered tabs for closed and liquidated positions, and historical account total trading history. Once those upgrades are complete, the council will also be adding a staking tab to view staking information about an address. This is intended to start framing out a one-stop shop for V3 staking and perps trading data. Lastly, in Ambassador Council updates, The ambassadors posted their most recent project spotlight on Twitter, where they highlighted D-Hedge, which is a non-custodial asset management protocol where users retain control of their assets while still allowing others to manage the capital. Be sure to check out the spotlight on Twitter if you missed it. The team has also been continuing to discuss the upcoming Optimism grant season that ends February 14th, as well as the recent Optimism mission requests that they review as OP delegates. Lastly, they went over Matt's recent call with Optimism, and you can find a link to the notes for the call in our blog. And that's it for today's updates. Be sure to check out our weekly recap blog post, share this podcast link, and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear more about from SNXweave. Thanks for listening.